excited to be here. I would just tell my little queer 10-year-old self that one day I would be standing in the West Hollywood Library.
Looking fabulous.
So I just want to also shout out to my nonfiction cohort. The piece I'm going to be reading tonight is a selection from a chapter. It's a condensation from a chapter that I have in an upcoming anthology on pleasure activism. And it explores many of the same themes that I'm developing into a book on sexual labor. So it's slightly different tone than where we've been at. So this piece is called The Pleasure of Getting Paid. What can I do to please you? He asks as she stands before him, slowly unbuttoning his shirt. She opens the next button, gives him her warm, practiced smile, and says with a wink, "You can leave your money on the table, sweetie." People are always asking, "Do sex workers feel pleasure at work? Do you ask your meal tech that? Your barista? Why are people so obsessed with sex workers' pleasure?" So, okay, let's talk about sex work and pleasure. We're going to talk about the pleasure of surviving, the pleasure of thriving and of having enough for yourself and your family, the pleasure of food on the table and an apartment that's all your own. Sex work just monetizes what women and feminine people of all genders are expected to do for free. Okay? Desexualize by cisgender men, validate their masculinity, give them attention, smile, flirt, listen, make them feel important and interesting even when they're tedious and exhausting. We're not done yet. For time and money, trying to achieve white middle class beauty standards and have sex that's mostly focused on their pleasure. Same thing. So there's nothing natural or effortless about this. That all takes work, right? The difference between sex workers and non-sex working women and femmes is just that sex workers get to admit that it's work and get paid, okay? But when we look at our culture's overheated fantasies about sex work, we see these lurid, sensationalistic images of women in peril, waiting to be rescued and rehabilitated into the safety of heterosexual domesticity. Now she does all the same things for men, only for free. Aww, so healthy, so safe. But from street-based trans women of color to European migrants working under the table at strip clubs to bi guys hustling on Rent Boy, what I've seen is that sex workers aren't all that different from other kinds of workers, and that sex is a tool for economic survival and class mobility for many of us, inside and entirely outside of the sex industry. The imaginary sex industry is actually just a mirror of our own hidden realities. Tell me what you fear about sex work, and I'll tell you what makes you anxious about your own sex life and your own working life. Every worry, real or wildly imagined, about the oppressions in the sex industry is already a part of our everyday lives. Sex can be a lot of work. Some of us don't have a lot of choice about it. Domination and violence are common, including among queers. Sex is tied to economic survival. And under capitalism, we all have to sell our bodies in one way or another. Show me the job where a body doesn't need to show up. Okay? But, we're told, it's wrong to commercialize something natural and sacred like sexual pleasure. Blaming the sex industry for commercializing sex entirely misses the point. The problem isn't the sex industry. The problem is that there is no escape for women and femmes, especially women and femmes of color, from the expectation that we will all perform sexual labor for men constantly. We are sexualized from the time we're born, assessed for our desirability according to shitty men's standards, penalized when we fall short, and we have so little control over how and when it will happen. At work, while meeting the kid's teacher, walking down the street to the corner store, at any time we can be reduced to some straight guy sex object. The cashier, the waitress, the nurse, the lady in tech, the leader of a country, all women and femmes are forced to become sexual entertainment for men with or without our consent. And if we aren't sexy enough for men, if we don't perform enough sexual labor, our wages suffer, we're devalued and we're considered ineligible for love. But if we're sexy in the wrong ways, then we're just sluts and hoes. Okay? Oftentimes, women and femmes internalize these destructive standards. We police other sexualities, judging and slut-shaming them, sometimes as viciously as straight men. We believe that we should fear and loathe whores rather than rejecting the institutions that have divided us into good girls and bad girls. In a sense, we are all forced to become sexual laborers, but we are never permitted to admit that pleasing men, being sexy for them, just managing their sexual expectations is real work. We are certainly never allowed to negotiate to receive something in exchange for that work. In fact, we're told that getting paid for sex or sexual entertainment is literally the worst thing that could happen to us. Oh no, someone gave you money? How terribly degrading. All of the sexual labor is actually just like housework. It's supposed to be performed by women and feminine people, quietly, invisibly, for straight men with a smile and for free. Wouldn't want to see women and femmes actually get something in return. That's all, thank you.